Hey, what's going on, guys? Vital Brad here, and I've got my cousin Damian Questiny on. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And he is, I've said this before, a wealth of knowledge. I just love picking his brain. And in this video, we're going to go into something that I really don't have a whole lot of depth on. So I learn so much, but Damien's going to go into chakras and the alignment of our body and what we call hypertech or hyper vibe, and it's a really interesting concept that I just wanted to get his thoughts on. I think you're really going to enjoy this. I mean, let's just jump right into it. What do you got for us?
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about it as far as the chakras, because I think that's an important part of our existence. Now, to define chakras is think of it like a color spectrum of your body. Okay, and that color spectrum goes from white to black. Okay, so each one of these colors are represented within the body structures. Why that's important is because each one of these actually has an expression and an impression that allows you to maneuver within your everyday life. And there's even time that you can build into these structures, which we'll get to after if people are interested in it. But one of the ways to understand it is that there is a correspondence with all things. It's like a mathematical equation, and that there really is harmony to our environment. Like there are systems that are in place that we cannot change, no matter what we do. And I call this the morality matrix. Right? The sun comes up. All these things happen in our lives that there's nothing that we can do to change it. And so there are principles or virtues, depends on what you look at it. There are principles and virtues that are also associated to it. Some people call it natural law, some people call it morality. And morality is different than ethics. Morality, think of morality, if I can use this term, as God's law, natural law, unbreakable, right? That's just the facts. Nothing that can be done to change it. And then there's ethics, which is man's law, which is trying to build structures around what morality is in everyday life. And the more civilized we become, the more ethics we have. In other words, the more laws we put on things to control the behavior of humans. Okay, that's ethics. Where morality is actually very simple, and you can find these evidences like in the Bible with God created the heavens and the earth within 7 days. There are 7 chakras, the 7 planets, the 7 days of the week. These are all important for organizing within the hypertech system, because all these things play a role in our color wheel of our body. So you have white at the top, then it goes ultraviolet, purple, whatever the case may be, and it goes blue, and you got green, and then at your solar plexus, that's yellow, and then you have orange in your gut, and then you have red as your reproduction system, right? And then you have gray and brown at your feet, and then black underneath, and then white's above. Okay, so think of it that this is kind of like the matrix wheel, and we did discuss what those colors represent. We talked about this last time, but let's stick with just the morality matrix itself of the 7 virtues or principles, so we can keep within in this. So when you look at that, you'll realize that one is mentalism. So that's the first principle or virtue that nothing we can do to change it. The second one is correspondence, and correspondence relates to your senses. Okay. Next, you have vibration, which is your speech, right? Your vocal cords vibrate. Then you have your hands, which is polarity, the right and the left. They look alike, but they are different. See, that you can't. They're not the same. See, they're different. So that's polarity. And then after that, you have your heart, which is rhythm, right? The beat of your heart. So that's rhythm. And then you have your gut, which would be cause and effect. Okay, that's the next one, cause and effect, right? When you have to take in to produce something new, gives you energy, gives you calories, allows you to move into the world. Cause and effect. Karma comes from that. So be careful what you eat. Be careful what you feed. These are all words that you get from the cause and effect aspects of the nature of our reality. And then you have the generative properties, or the degenerative, because if you're also you have to excrete waste, but you also create life with your generator properties, okay? And that's gender. So these are the 7 principles of virtues. Now, you can use these as weapons too, where you take them and you reverse them, okay? And you can use the 7 deadly sins, because these are considered the immortals. Again, we can't change these. We have to just accept these are realities in which we participate within. These are the laws of the universe, so to speak, right? Depends on what narrative or model that you like to use. All things follow this. So you would start with lust at the bottom. Then your gut would be gluttony. Okay, so because you do opposite, you reverse it. It's backwards. Okay. Then you have your heart would be greed. Okay. Your hands would be sloth, right? It's because you're resting, you're not doing anything, you're not being active. So that would be sloth. And then wrath would be your throat. So it's because we're going backwards through the chakras. Okay. And then your senses would be envy. And then at the top, where mentalism would be, right? The corruption of mentalism would be pride.
Wow.
So you have this, and these are the immortals on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. So you know that these things are always at play. Now, why this is cool is because if you take the 10 Commandments, it works the same way. So no other gods before me. Okay. No idols would be your senses. So you don't take the Lord's name in vain. Mm-hmm. Okay. Remember the Sabbath would be your hands. Remember the Sabbath. Remember to rest. Okay. Honor thy mother and thy father. Okay, that's where the heart is. Do not murder, which is your gut. I'm sorry, you probably can't see me because in the thing. Yeah. But do not murder. And then in the reproductive part would be do not commit adultery.
Wow. Lines up perfectly.
Exactly. Now, just so everybody's clear on how the math works within the Bible itself and how important it can be in your life, is just to make sure that they went to the 7, which those are the 7, right? From adultery, from thou shalt not have any other gods before me, to thou shalt not commit adultery. The whole chakra system is there. They've also put a trinity built into it as well, which is thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie. Okay, and what's it? I forget the other one. Thou shalt not lust. Okay, so those are the 3. So those are the warnings just to make sure that everybody fully understands that's the activity in which you have to perform in order to be corrupted within the 7 chakra systems. So if you're stealing or you're lying or you're lusting, those are the paths to the 7 deadly sins. So that's where the warning. So it's mathematical. Bible. This is why it makes so much sense to everybody. Our leaders swear on it, right? Everybody, you go to court, you got to swear on the. It's like a roadmap for these type of systems, because it is built within the body. It's mathematical, and so that's kind of what I wanted to share between the principles and the deadly sins, because these are prevalent in our existence, in our life. And we don't have to, but there are opportunities for us to participate within these things and correct certain things too. And this helps us with that roadmap, helps reassure us that we're on the right path.
I love how it lines up. Like you say, it's mathematical. It lines up perfectly. It makes sense. How can, let's take, for example, I hear that sometimes people say, oh, your energy, energy can be off. Is there a practical process of realigning these chakras? I mean, how do we use this to our benefit and our advantage?
Yes, there is. There always is. Being aware of it is one of the first things, because now you have a structure and a way to organize it. Because the thing is that these are all aspects of our reality, so we have to deal with them one way or another in some form or fashion. So when you harmonize with the color spectrum of your own body, you're utilizing the energy in a way that is beneficial for you as the host, and beneficial for people you come in contact with, because you are expressing them in a way that is of use, of a tool, and not of a bludgeon or a weapon. You're not trying to beat them over it or slam something down. And so in my estimation, one of the best forms of this is just by revealing what it is that is in front of you. You're revealing whatever aspect is manifesting. So I use the example. So let's give an example. This is a better way to explain it because it gets kind of complicated. The last time you and I spoke, I mentioned that when you want to put these things into practice and you want to have real world examples, you will notice that this information has been in your face the whole time. And one way you find that out is through transportation. When you go from point A to point B, look at the world around you, but look at it with fresh eyes. Look at it with as if you saw it for the first time. And you will notice that the colors of the signs in which tell you where to go on your travels are in correspondence to the Bible, to the 7 deadly sins, to the chakras, even to the 7 virtues. They're all in harmony. And you can boil all this down to a single word. And by utilizing that, you can practice in your own life and see how the control works. Now, control doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. Okay? We associate good and bad to these things. They are simply through transportation. When you go down, I mentioned we'll start at the top and we'll go through them real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Again.
Yep.
Since I mentioned white to black, let's go through all the colors.
Okay.
Go about your day and you see that you are driving on black asphalt and there are white lines, and you'll notice that the sign says 65 miles an hour and that sign is black and white. You will know that they're communicating to you subconsciously through symbols, because your mind actually uses the alphabet, but your gut uses symbols to communicate. Or a mountain looks like a triangle to your gut, but to your mind, you can actually envision the word mountain. Or, water looks like a wavy line to the gut, but water to the mind is like spelled out, and you actually can visualize what water looks like, waterfall, all these kind of things come to mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your gut sees it symbolically. So that's why the signs are symbolic and they're color-coded. So you have white is offering. They're offering you a lane to travel in. That lane is controlled. That's why the asphalt is black, because the word for white is offering and the word for black is control from the international matrix. Okay, from this perspective. That's why from transportation. Controlling transportation, you control people. You control where they move. You control where they think. The word government is mind control. Control over mind. That's what govern meant. Governmental. So to have workings over the mind. So you can see that this program is built in. So that's the white and the black. Now, if you see signs that are purple, that means sovereignty. You don't see very many of those, okay, of purple ones. Internationally, you may see them when you get towards places that are like attaches and ambassadors, stuff like that. You may see a purple sign here and there, okay, on those levels. So you don't see many of those when you're transporting yourself from one place to the other. If you see blue, the color blue, right? That is commerce. Communication.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's like gas, this left. Food over here. It's a blue sign with white lettering, which is offering. Okay, they're offering you commerce. So that's why it's blue.
Wow.
Look at the logo. The United Nations logo is blue and white. It is commercial. It is commerce. It is a authority for communication and money. That's what they're expressing themselves. Intel, same thing. Like these things are all these companies. You'll know what their priorities are based on the colors. And so it's interesting. Priority actually is red, and that's the generative property. So you'll see a stop sign that'll be red, or a red light. That takes priority over everything else. You must do this before you do anything else, because of safety, those kind of reasons, right? You'll see this in your daily travels. Mm-hmm. So then you have green. Green is service. So this is Lake Mead Road. This is Main Street. This is 2nd Street. Off this one, this white, offering you, this is the lane to get into that area. So that's a service. Okay, that's why their signs are green on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. Then there is yellow. Yellow is activity. Oh. The word they use for activity. So you'll see railroad crossings, or regular crossings. Things that are yellow are means that's for activity. So, and then you have orange. Orange is change. So servicemen. They're out there with their orange cones. They're changing the road somehow. That's what that code means. Now again, don't associate good or bad to these things. They're encoded for a reason because subconsciously we respond to them, and we act appropriately based on the activation of that particular chakra in our own bodies. So it's pre-programmed, even though we don't consciously know it. Symbolically, we do, because it's like, I'm not telling you that you don't already know. I'm just reminding you, when these things ring true to you, you know when truth is truth. In other words, you know it's real, because these things are in communication with you. So that's orange. Red, again, priority. Now, if you see a gray sign, that means support. That they're trying to offer support in some way. If you see a brown sign, that means culture.
Like camping.
Like camping, yeah, exactly. Like perfect example. Camping, museums are brown, right? So you'll see those signs, and then you have black, which is control. Again, don't associate good or bad to them. It's just how we organize, even through our color spectrum, our rainbow of ourselves. Like there's some scientists who claim that the reason why we even see each other right now is because of the light spectrum in which you're emitting, and I'm interpreting that, and I'm reorganizing your light spectrum, and that gives me the shape that you are, the look that you have. So there's a light transfer there. And I think this plays a role in how society is organized and how civilization is organized. And if we knew how to crack into that matrix, how to break the code, right? If we knew the right combination, and these words are hopefully structured in a way where it allows you to see through the matrix, this gives you a much deeper, richer experience with life. And then all of a sudden you get the one thing that is extremely valuable as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest treasures, and that is memory. It's memory, to remember everything, where you don't, like, do you remember what you had last night for dinner? Do you remember the last movie you saw? Like, if you can recall it right now, right here, then you have memory. That is, in my opinion, a very rare talent and skill to learn. And this was why I personally started the Hypertech School and teaching people this, because memory is what connects us to joy and purpose, man. I want to find joy in life. I want to find purpose in life, and those things are fleeting. They're not always on or always off. And those fleeting moments, that gives me richness, and it allows me to fine-tune my skills and my talents in a way that is harmonious, because I've organized them in a way where I can retrieve them whenever I want them in an instant. Because there's so many answers, there's so many questions, there's so many things going on. How do you stay focused? How do you attune yourself to the point where all the noise, all the stuff that's going on, where you can actually stay focused on one item for at least 8 seconds or more?
You asked the question about what I had for dinner last night, or you just asking it, and I, for myself, I mean, I couldn't come up with it, and I still haven't been able to come up with it because I haven't taken a second to like focus on it. If I paused my connection with you, then I could retrieve it. But how can someone strengthen their memory or their focus? What's a practical way for someone to get better at doing that if right now they're not very good at, or that's not like a strength of theirs right now? What's some advice you'd give on that?
So I was a trained remote viewer. So I have an added benefit. In the late 90s, I was fortunate enough to be a paid remote viewer. Okay? And they taught structures in organizations where everything has its proper place to put things. Everything must be in a certain format in order to derive more accurate information. So I extrapolate what I've learned from remote viewing into organizing it within my body, so I can retrieve what I need when I need it at the moment that I need it.
So I'm picturing, so then your brain or your body is like a filing cabinet, and you know exactly where to go to get that piece of information?
Correct. That's exactly right. And the key to opening that is to listen to the question. And where is the question coming from? Is it coming from somebody's heart? Is it a mental question? Is it an intuitive question? Because also time plays a role in this. For me, I organize my mind in the past, my heart in the present, and my gut in the future. So based on the question that you asked,
wow.
Is it a question? Is it a past question, or is it a present question? If most questions that you're asking are present questions, which means I get to talk to you from my heart, which in my opinion is my favorite way to move about my life, is to work within my heart, because I receive empathy and sympathy, and I get to see what happens from what I create with my hands, what I create with conversation. And my heart is a way for me to have, empathy and sympathy and compassion, and really speak to you that way in the present. We're not talking about future events. We're not talking about past events. We're talking about what's at peace, what's right now. Because if you live too far in the future, you become anxious. If you live too far in the past, you become depressed. But if you find yourself in the present, you get more peace. And this is another enjoyable process in how you organize your life. So if your language, the things that you say all the time, are curses, you will receive that in kind. Nothing you can do about it. It's part of the matrix we discussed, 7 principles, cause and effect. Mm-hmm. If things that you say are spells, that's what you are going to receive in kind. If things that you say are kind, you should be receiving kindness in your life, right? It's almost like it's giving you exactly what you put into it, and that's another aspect to it. So if you change your language, you can actually change your reality, but do it in a way where you're paying attention, where you are present. You're not forcing it. Don't force any of this stuff. We're all learning. We all will continue learning. There is no destination per se within this kind of thing. It's just, just be aware of the things that you do and the things that happen to you, so you can make adjustments. So if there are corrections, that's what the benefit of this is, and you will know how to make those corrections based on the language that's coming for you. So in other words, if you're driving down the road and there's all this construction equipment going on everywhere you go, every place you go, there's construction equipment and you can't get around it, then you need to know that there are things in your life that are trying to communicate change to you, right? So knowing these key words allows you access to open up new doors, and those new doors provide conduits for you to grow and to learn if that's what you want, to fine-tune your skills and your talents. If you're hitting every single light, every single red light on your way to work, that's telling you, man, hey, slow down. Slow down. You're missing so much good stuff right now. You need to stop for just half a second, smell the roses. Ferris Bueller said it best, right? Okay? If you're getting too many red lights, you need to watch Ferris Bueller, dude. That'll set you straight. Yeah. Okay, I guarantee. So if you're hitting too many yellow lights, you're doing too much. You're stressing yourself out. You're burning yourself out. You're hitting every yellow light. You're rushing through those. If you're rushing through all those yellow lights, these are, I'm just sharing this because when you move about your day, this is how universe talks to you. What are the things that takes place? Who do you run into? What are the things that you do? Do you have opportunities to talk to other people? When you do talk to them, what are they talking about? What's interesting to them? So that way it gives you an idea of where you stand. Because I also talk about like this. If you look at the 5 closest friends that you have around you, or the 5 closest people, how is your interaction with them? What kind of caliber of person are they? What do they influence? Because that'll give you the best idea of exactly who you are and where you stand. Because you'll be the average of them. Because those people associate with you, you associate with them. This is where you find interest. So you'll be the average. And if you're living around a bunch of people who are totally awesome and kicking butt every day, then chances are you're totally awesome kicking butt every day. But if you're around people who are holding you down and constantly doing that, then chances are you're probably living that kind of life too. Mm-hmm. And we have to come to grips with that. And then when we come to grips with that, denial goes away, and then you start building the organization that we're talking about here. Sorry, it's a long explanation, but I think it's valuable. Mm-hmm. But you start building these organizations so that way they become easier. Because I don't want to sweat with everything I do. I don't want to work hard in everything I do. It's exhausting. Mm-hmm. I want things to be a lot easier, and the only way I know how to make things a lot easier is to organize them so that way I'm paying attention. So when they do come into my life, I have the appropriate response to it, and that way I can just, if I need to sidestep. Mm-hmm. If I need to confront it, boom, I confront it. See what I'm saying? So, and you get to have that judgment, and it gives you this real good sense of confidence and the sense of purpose and aim in your life, because you do know what you want now. You do, because you know what affects you. If I can just put a fine point onto it. So organizing your life in a way that incorporates your being with your activity will spread to the people you care about, and then hopefully they'll start organizing themselves, and now all of a sudden you're elevating each other.
So it's basically what you're talking about that I don't have is a system of structure of like organization within yourself that I'll be honest with you, I don't have. My mind is like a whirlwind. You know, if I need to retrieve something, I guess I don't really know where I'm pulling it from. So if I ask you a question where you have to retrieve something from the past, you know, like a memory, or I ask you a question about, you know, Bitcoin when you first started, or I mean, from what you're saying, if you go into the past, you're then going into the mind. Am I understanding that correct?
That's the general mode. These modes can change. These modes aren't always stuck in those systems, okay? But mine can go into the future as well. But for me, if you're asking me a question in the past, I have to remember where I put that in the past in order to retrieve it again. So I go through my filing cabinet of all of the experiences that took place that are relevant to it. I immediately pull it into a pile, and then I look at the language in which you used to ask the question about the past, and then I just pick out the relevant words that are connected to that to share that with you, so I answer your question, or I ask a question because I don't fully understand your question, right? Or your, see what I'm saying? And so that way I can get rid of 99% of all the noise in my head, because you've narrowed it down to a very specific question that I'm actually able to retrieve. Now I can retrieve it locally if I had the experience, or because I've organized my body systems to also include the future, is that I'm ready to respond to you about how it affects our future in case you do ask that question, because I just move my mind to my gut. Wow. So think of it like there's just as many neurons in your head as there is in your gut.
Yep.
And as soon as we realize that our gut is just as smart, just as intuitive, just as valuable to process data and information, to crunch the numbers, so to speak, to come up with the right answer, we can intuitively find the answer in the future, whatever that solution is. Our gut will bring that to us. We'll just intuitively know where to go. That's what's so cool about it. Like, it's like, how does that work, man? How do we know how to intuitively know? Well, that doesn't feel right. Well, how do you know it doesn't feel right?
Right.
You have to trust that. And once you start trusting your gut, because you already trust your mind. I went through public school. They did a great job convincing me on the mind, like the whole thing about, you know, where we come from, our past, what years, all, you know, how, you know, what the narrative is. They've done a great job indoctrinating me. That's all mental stuff. They never taught me anything about my gut. They never taught me anything about my heart.
Never.
These are all things I learned by doing.
Yeah.
So that's why it becomes hard.
That's where that saying does come from, is trust your gut. I've heard that our gut health is so important because that's actually, some people say, more powerful than, you know, this brain. We've got a brain down here in a sense and a brain up here.
Let me expand on that a little bit. Language is critical. Your power comes from your gut. So you nailed it, dude. You knew exactly what it's called. It's called your power. Your mind doesn't have power. Your mind has force. So when you think of the Jedi, may the force be with you, those kind of things, that's what your mind brings. Your mind brings spirit to manifestation, where your gut brings soul. Your gut brings it from deep, where your mind brings it from high. Your mind is in air, where your gut is in water. So there's a density, there's a pressure in your gut, there's a passivity in your gut, where there is an activity in your mind. Okay, so I call this the electric, and the gut the magnetic, because your gut is taking things in and making a factory out of it, where your mind is like out there connected to things electrically and pulling, you know, neurons and connections to different things, but it's always moving, it's always fluid. Your gut is fluid, water's fluid, but so is air. It's just a different density of it. So one is high and the other one is deep, if that makes sense. So there's layers to all of these organizational structures that you can use to put things in, so you know exactly where you left them. You know where to find them because you know where you left them. And that's what memory is, dude. And that's also the heart. Memory for me is high access memory through the heart. And I talked a little bit about the gateway and the doorway that I use, because I use a different matrix for accessing these kind of realms, and I'd love to share that with you if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are elements in our world. There are 4 elements. We are the 5th element, right? The 4 elements are earth, air, water, and fire.
Okay.
I organize these elements into my body structure so that way I have an avenue and a way of retrieving information so I don't miss anything. And I give proper respect to what is being presented to me, because every moment to me is a gift. That's why they call it the present, a gift, the present, right? This is the joke I always say. So I organize the elements in my body. Earth is my body. It's made out of earth, okay? My mind is the element of air. My heart is the element of fire. Air is intellect and reason. What are your reasons? Will and desire. What do you desire? What are your urges? Your gut is feelings and intuition, is emotion, right? Emotion of the ocean, kind of like, they kind of rhyme. So all these elements are built in your body system, and they need to express themselves.
So gut is water.
Gut is water.
Okay.
Body is earth. Heart is fire. Air is mind.
Gotcha.
Organizing these in an elemental structure, in an elemental pattern, gives them their own life and gives them their own mechanism for retrieving information about your daily activities. And it organizes it in a way so that way really you don't miss very much. That you have greater attention to detail. That's just kind of like what it gives you. That may not sound very valuable, but as years go on, it's helpful because you remember things that you read. You remember things that you've seen. Your neurons are firing correctly where you're able to retrieve these things because of the way you structured it. And so the elements themselves are the mechanism of retrieval and storage of that information. So that's the key. So the four keys that unlock each one of those is this. The element of earth I unlock with the key I call sincerity, where everything I do to organize anything that comes to me that's physical is I do it with sincerity. Okay, that's the key that I organize it with. For my mind, the key I use I call reverence, because I want to be able to revere you as a human being. And the things that you say are extremely valuable. And I don't want to miss anything that you say. I want to really hear from you, because you are changing my life simply by being in it right here, right now, no matter what I do. Okay? And I'm hopefully doing the same thing to you if we're paying attention. Does this make sense? So I use reverence as that. So I revere whatever comes out of your mouth. I'm not going to take anything from you other than the things that you share that benefit me and that I can take to people that I love and hopefully benefit them. Like, you wouldn't believe what I talked about today with Brad. Awesome, man. We went all this cool stuff. So that increases my inspiration and my motivation. Okay, so reverence helps me with that. In my heart of fire, I use gratitude, to be grateful for every moment that I get, the good and the bad, man. And don't think that I don't have bad in my life, because I do. Everybody does. We're all working on that. When I teach these things or talk about these things, I'm not special. No more than you are. You are at the same level as me. I'm just good at communicating it, for example, right? Because I've worked on that skill, and you'll be good at expressing it in your own way, and I'll learn something, right? So fire. So that is gratitude. But my gut, this is the one that teaches the most lessons for me, because in my gut, the key I use is humility. And so with reverence, sincerity, humility, and gratitude, those are the organizational elements that I use for everything that I do in my daily life. And that is as fine-tuned as I can share it with the world to see what works for them. You decide what your keys are to open the doors in your life. But since you asked about hypertech and how the system works, those are the keys that I use. And if you find that to be of value, then practice it. See how those protocols work for you. Incorporate that in your daily routine and see what comes of it. See if there's health. Health is the impression you get. See if there's wealth. Wealth is the expression that you get. It's like breathing, but there's also a third force, and never forget the third force. The third force is what is made from that union. And sometimes those things you can't not define. We do not know it. Like, you take a quarter, for example. people say there's two sides to the coin. There's actually three. There's the side two. You have to take that in consideration. I call that the echo experiment. That's like, there's a breathing. There's the pause in breath. What happens to you in that pause? Have you really analyzed, when you're breathing, have you really thought about what goes through your mind in the middle of your breath? You will find such treasure and such wealth at that moment, because it reveals to you your true essence. And so these systems require you to pay attention to them, so that way they can play a role in your life.
We're going over this, we're scratching the surface. Got your YouTube channel, so I'm going to leave the link to your channel below. So if you haven't yet, go make sure you guys subscribe to his channel, because he gets into all kinds of interesting things. You also have a book, am I right?
Yes. Okay, so thanks for bringing that up, man. You're the first person to bring that. Okay, so I actually, before I started my YouTube channel, I wrote a book. And I did it off the plates that you see on the channel. So that way people can go back and validate the things that I talk about and verify with their own judgment the things that I talk about are real. So I ran experiments. The experiments are a reflection of the book. So the first book are the plates. They went over every plate, and it's like a clock. It's like a symphony. The whole channel is. And I ran experiments to show each one. So the Trinity experiment is the experiment with the mind that we talked about. The echo experiment is the heart. The private experiment is the body. And then I have another experiment that I did called a lash factor, and that's the gut. So you can use these, because I teach remote viewing, time travel, and magic. So I want people to see how these processes could be real in their lives, because there's so much, there's so much speculation and minutia around these things. People, they want concrete stuff. And so I share these ideas on the channel and through the book. I wrote the book first, and then I presented the channel to show how the future rolls out, because that's part of the process. And then while on that journey over the past couple of years doing this, I wrote a second book. And the second book is was made while on the journey of presenting the first book. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because we want to make these things dynamic. We want to make these things ever changing, ever growing. Because just because the ball gets rolling, there's so many other things that can come along that could really benefit from this type of technology. People can really find renaissance in their life, so to speak, by simply participating within their own life, and these systems kind of teach that. So the book was written first, then I did the channel expressing the book, describing the book. People got to see the pages of the book, and then while doing that, I wrote the second book, and I released those pages too while doing that, so people can see those, and it's the diagrams that I made. It's the art that I created. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these two books were written for the channel. Now everything going on right now, things that we're talking about right now, these are just ways of participating with other people of like mind who are interested in these things. And this is now, it's just me putting these things into practice physically with the world, people who are interested in these. Not whatever you guys are interested in, let's talk about it, let's discuss it, so that way we all can learn, we all can grow, and we can make the world better. That's the idea.
Okay, so how does someone get your book?
All they got to do to get the book is they contact me and they tell me a little bit about themselves and why they want it, and that will help me. They can email me, and I'll send them an e-copy of it, of the first book. The second book I don't give to people unless they come to the school and they're with me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's different. Those are more the tools and things. So, but if you want a copy of the book, just email me. Tell me why. Tell me a little bit about who you are. That way I feel good about sharing this stuff, and I'll send you a copy.
Okay. It's advanced stuff, talking to you, and, it's conversations me and you have had. It's very, very advanced stuff. So, the concept of line upon line, I've got to have many of these conversations with you to probably get myself to, an advancement level to even really be able to fully accept and comprehend and, embrace some of the concepts you talk about.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It's very kind of you. It's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it and passionate about it. That's why I started this whole thing, because it's helped me. And if it's helped me to this degree, where I'm super comfortable with it, it is my responsibility as a practitioner of this to share it with others who are interested in this.
Yeah, so if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to Damian's channel. I'll link that below. Just real quick, it's popped in my head. You mentioned school. if they come to the school, do you, and you're a teacher, is there a program or a school or a course, or is there a next step people can get involved in, or how does that work?
Yes, I call it a school because there is a curriculum, and there is like a syllabus. There are certain things that that I would want you to do, so that way you can be more grounded, more organized with yourself. So that's why I kind of call it a school. But in the end, the whole goal is for you to eventually get to the point where now you understand the organization, go out and put it into practice. Because by you putting it into practice, by its very nature, you're going to make the world a better place. Because again, like we talked about, the trinity of, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not lust, all those kind of things. You start building a relationship with these systems that are, the good and the bad, and then what will burn your hand when you touch it, and what will quench your thirst when you drink it. Okay, so that's why the memory recall is really important within the system. So there is a school that brings that into fruition, that brings that into alignment, because the object at the end is for you to do this effortlessly, to do this every day with everything you do, no matter what you do. It's just like automatic, because your body's just responding to all of the details that are happening within your life. And then now you can react to that appropriately.
So much good information. I really appreciate all the time that you've spent today. And now what I'd like you guys to do, if you have questions, which I'm sure you do, for Damian, leave the questions in the comments below. Really, things as Damian's talking, I'm sure there's things that come to mind and questions you have. Leave the comments below, because Damian and I will be making weekly videos, and we'd like to, start addressing some of your, questions and your comments on our videos, and really start opening up and expanding this
new paradigm.
Yeah, a new paradigm, yeah.
A new paradigm that we all can participate within together. We decide what it is that is going to be its product. We choose that. That's extremely valuable to people, I would think.
Yeah.
Or we have to stay in our environment and then things that we do. And that's what I love about it. That's more my participation, what I like to do.
Definitely an expansion of consciousness, and it's continually growing. And as people bring their contribution and your contribution and my contribution, the contribution grows. And it's a beautiful thing happening, and we're going to continue doing these videos and conversations and getting people involved. Appreciate it. And any final thoughts?
No, I love it. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. You have questions, like he said, I'll answer. I'll talk about it. Whatever it is that you guys are interested in. You guys want to teach me some things? Tell me what's up too. I want to learn too. So I really appreciate you taking the time with me, and talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you guys on the next one.